We have the latest on the upcoming major AEW announcement, but first be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss the latest pro wrestling news. And let's begin by going to some huge updates regarding the ongoing Vince McMahon lawsuit. The wrestling world would change forever on January 25th, 2024, this when a report dropped from the Wall Street Journal that revealed details of a lawsuit filed against former WWE chairman Vince McMahon by Janelle Grant, with the suit detailing a number of graphic allegations of sexual assault and sex trafficking. Since then, McMahon has resigned from his roles within the wrestling organization, albeit whilst denying the claims made against him. With that said, a fresh report would drop today from the Wall Street Journal, revealing that not only is there a civil case being made against Vince, but that he's also under federal investigation, not only for claims made by Grant, but for sexual misconduct allegations made by multiple women, and the report notes. Over the summer, federal agents executed a search warrant for Vince McMahon's phone and delivered a subpoena to him for documents related to any allegations of rape, sex trafficking, sexual assault, commercial sex transaction, harassment, or discrimination against current or former WWE employees. The grand jury subpoena offers the first window into the investigation, which began in 2022. WSJ reported in 2022 that McMahon had made payouts to several women who accused him of sexual misconduct while he was CEO, and that prosecutors were investigating the payouts. The subpoena also sought communication between McMahon and these women, including Grant. Grant and at least 4 of the women named in the grand jury subpoena had entered into settlement agreements with McMahon over allegations of sexual misconduct. Prosecutors have interviewed some of the women, the people said. Another person named in the lawsuit is former WWE executive and head of talent relations John Laurinaitis, who was terminated by the company in the summer of 2022 following an internal investigation. Following allegations of sexual misconduct made in the Janelle Grant lawsuit, Laurinaitis has now released a statement via his lawyer Edward Brennan, seemingly confirming the allegations made against McMahon are true, whilst claiming to actually be a victim in the situation rather than a predator. First, let's take a look at the excerpt from the Vice report that broke the news. A lawyer from John Laurinaitis, a co-defendant in an explosive civil sex trafficking lawsuit brought last week against former WWE founder Vince McMahon and WWE itself, appeared to corroborate central claims in the suit in a statement to Vice News today, whilst disputing Laurinaitis' role as described in the complaint. Edward Brennan, the lawyer, said that his client is himself a victim, just like plaintiff Janelle Grant, a former WWE employee. As for the statement released to Vice, here's what Brendan had to say regarding Laurinaitis' role in this situation. The truth will come out. Mr. Laurinaitis denies the allegations in the misguided complaints and will be vigorously defending these charges in court, not the media. Like the plaintiff, Mr. Laurinaitis is a victim in this case, not a predator. The truth will come out. In response to a follow-up question from Vice asking for clarity that Laurinaitis was indeed saying that McMahon was the predator and that Laurinaitis, like Grant, was a victim, Brennan responded, "Read the allegations, read the federal statute. Power, control, employment, supervisory capacity, dictatorial sexual demands with repercussions if not met. Count how many times in the complaint Vince exerts control over both of them." It would seem that McMahon is facing a battle with an ongoing federal investigation concerning claims made by multiple women at this point, whom were subject to non-disclosure agreements, as well as a civil suit filed by Janelle Grant, as well as now former ally John Laurinaitis claiming to be a victim of McMahon's behavior. It appears that this may not be the end of the onslaught against the former WWE chairman, as things look to go from bad to worse for him, with Janelle Grant's lawyer Ann Callis telling News Nation that she's been contacted by even more people now willing to come forward about the toxic culture within the WWE offices, and she would say, "My office and my inbox have had a barrage of people wanting to come forward to attest about this culture of corruption and also possible victims. We're just beginning now to wade through all this, and we're frankly overwhelmed." And next up, Brock Lesnar has been removed from a WWE game. The Vince McMahon-Janelle Grant lawsuit has had a huge ripple effect on the wrestling business since the story dropped, with the suit not only impacting those in the WWE offices, but also an individual on the talent roster. The suit refers to an unnamed former UFC heavyweight champion that re-signed with WWE in the summer of 2022 before returning at SummerSlam 2022, with all indications pointing towards this individual being Brock Lesnar. The revelations would lead to WWE pulling plans for Lesnar to appear in this year's Men's Royal Rumble match, with it looking like it could be a long time before we see him in a WWE ring again, if ever. We now have a couple of updates on Brock Lesnar's future, as Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful has taken to X to confirm that he is now completely removed from any future WWE creative plans, although this appears to only be the beginning of his removal. In a further update regarding the Brock Lesnar situation, we now have a report from PW Insider that reveals the Beast has been removed from the WWE Supercard mobile game, with it now impossible to pull Lesnar cards from packs, and PW Insider would note, several PWInsider.com readers sent word that Brock Lesnar has disappeared from the WWE 2K Supercard digital collectible game online. In asking around, we've confirmed Lesnar was indeed pulled from the game. It would appear that 2K, as a licensee for WWE, is following the company's lead after WWE backed off on using Lesnar last week at the Royal Rumble event. Lesnar was slated to return and begin his WrestleMania season storyline, but in the wake of the Janelle Grant lawsuit filed against WWE, Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis several days before, we are told the company chose to withdraw Lesnar's involvement. Whilst players that have already acquired Brock Lesnar supercards can still use them, they can no longer be attained from here on out. In the PW Insider reports, it's confirmed that Brock will be downplayed, if not outright removed, from any third-party licensee-related endeavors going forward, such as video games or trading cards, and they would note, going forward, PWInsider.com has been told by sources familiar to the matter that we should expect to see Lesnar downplayed, if not outright removed, as he was in the Supercard game, as much as possible going forward by 2K and potential other licensees. As we discussed on a video over on the gaming channel, in predictions for wrestlers that will be removed from WWE 2K24, Lesnar does feature on the cover of the 40 Years of WrestleMania edition of the game, which appears to confirm his inclusion in the headline game mode, which could make it difficult to outright remove him entirely. Next up, we have the latest on the upcoming major AEW announcement. On last night's news video, we would cover recent comments made by Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, who would claim that AEW's upcoming announcement next week on Dynamite is linked to the impending debut of former WWE Women's Champion Sasha Banks, now known as Mercedes Moné. On top of this, Meltzer claimed that the announcement was originally planned for this past Saturday night's episode of Collision, although the Vince McMahon lawsuit led to a delay to ensure that the story wasn't lost in the news cycle. Well, we now have confirmation from both Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select and Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast that Mercedes Moné is expected to make her AEW debut next month, this likely after the AEW Revolution pay-per-view has been and gone. It remains unclear if next week's announcement will be Mercedes related, but Fightful would report. AEW founder Tony Khan fueled speculation on Wednesday when it was announced that he'd have an announcement on the February 6th episode of AEW Dynamite. While no one will confirm, it was implied that it was related to the impending appearance of Mercedes Moné in AEW. However, we were not told that her signing would be outright mentioned as part of the rumoured announcement. However, what we have heard from numerous talents is that they've been told within the company and from those close to Mercedes that the working plan in All Elite Wrestling is for her to physically appear for the company in March, likely after the Revolution pay-per-view. We've not been told when she could make an in-ring wrestling debut for the company. Whilst the exact date of an appearance is unclear, it's worth mentioning that the Revolution pay-per-view goes down on March 3rd, so it could be any date after this. In contrast to the claim from Meltzer that next week's announcement was delayed as to avoid being drowned out by the Vince McMahon news, Fightful would note that this is in fact not the case, and that Mercedes' signing or arrival was never considered to be announced this past weekend, as rumoured. With that said, the belief within WWE and AEW is that Moné has been signed to an AEW contract for weeks at this point, and they would add, Sean Ross Sapp was told this weekend by numerous WWE sources that by the time December 29 rolled around, that WWE knew they were out on Mercedes, and we were told she likely would have been unable to perform at the Royal Rumble anyway. WWE sources and AEW talent we spoke to are under the impression that Mercedes has been signed with AEW for weeks. But what do you think the impending debut of Mercedes Moné means for AEW and their women's division, and will she take the company to the next level? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure you check out every new superstar that will likely be added to WWE 2K24.